Beginning in the 1950s, new social movements grew up in the United States, demanding equal rights for African Americans, for women, and for homosexuals. Now, since my book has sometimes been misinterpreted in the United States, and I don't want it to be misinterpreted in Brazil, I want to make very clear to you that I consider the struggle for those rights to have been one of the glorious moments in the history of my country. But what was especially moving and effective about them, initially, was that their demands were made in the language of solidarity. All Americans, these groups claimed, deserved equal rights simply because they are U.S. citizens. And in order to achieve equal rights in practice, these movements had to persuade the rest of America, white America, male America, straight America, to identify with them, which they eventually did to a great extent. Not only have most legal rights for these groups been achieved, at least on paper, the United States, even under Donald Trump, is a far more open and tolerant society than it was a half century ago. And that's very good news. But during the Reagan years, something changed on the American left. The rhetoric shifted from a language of equality among citizens to a language of personal identity. In other words, there was a shift from the principle of solidarity to the principles of self-definition and recognition. The repercussions for American politics were profound. It is one thing, for example, to demand that gays and lesbians be treated equally by law. It's a different thing, though, to demand that individuals' gender self-definitions, for example, be recognized and affirmed by everyone else. This identity politics presumes a different picture of a democratic society, not as a union of equal citizens, but as an agglomeration of individuals, groups, and tribes which have different, incompatible identities. Many young people today, and not just in the United States, now see democracy in this way. They do not think of themselves primarily as American democratic citizens. They think of themselves as private individuals possessing a unique identity that sets them off from people with other identities. This is why young people today are so easily offended, and why political correctness has become such a problem in the university and the media. It is also why many young people in the U.S. tend to limit their political engagements today to whatever social issues they think relate to their personal identities, however they happen to define them. Now, for someone like myself, who grew up during the ideological battles of the Cold War, when the stakes were very high, it's baffling to see young people today so absorbed with personal questions, for example, of gender, and not, say, economic justice or foreign policy. The 19th and 20th century idea of political engagement on the left, which required a comprehensive outlook on politics, economics, society, history, all that seems to be disappearing. Now, of course, there were problems with those grand ideologies and with those grand narratives because they attempted to explain everything. But at least they inspired the ambition to understand how things connect and to somehow get the big picture. The result of all this is that the radical left in the United States, such as it is, opposes today economic neoliberalism, which makes sense, while at the same time promoting what might be called social neoliberalism. Its primary aim is not to build solidarity, it simply reinforces the radical individualism of our time.